NFL insiders report that things maybe just be getting a tad bit uncomfortable at Panthers headquarters. It has been revealed that the Carolina Panthers may have actually been a little bit more active at the trade deadline than we first thought. And some Panthers fans planned a march on Mint Street to voice their concerns and discuss the future of the team. And good news is that the Panthers could be getting one of their star defenders back soon and very soon from injury. I am back in town, so we have all that and more of this edition of Panthers News Today. We're starting right now. What up, though? It's Aaron Duncan with the Necessary Blunt and Sports Talk. Recap and analysis of the Carolina Panthers is what goes down on this channel, along with NFL insights, breaking down film, live streams, podcasts, whatever you want to do. I got it here. Unfortunately, I have to cover the Panthers because they are my favorite team, so it is what it is. If they're your favorite team too and you love to hate them and have a love-hate relationship, whatever you want to call it, hit that subscribe button down below in the bell icon. I'm all over pretty much everything that goes on here. I'm in the streets, man. I'm here, man. So if you don't want to miss anything about this team, subscribe down below. And also, go to that Patreon channel if you want to get more in-depth analysis of the Panthers with extra film breakdowns. I know you guys love the film breakdowns on the channel. The best way to get everything and not miss anything in terms of the Panthers and college prospects, hit that Patreon. It's patreon.com/UB Sports Talk. Yes, patreon.com/UB Sports Talk. You also help support the channel and you'll get more value for your favorite team. First things first, Diana Rossini, NFL insider who now works with The Athletic, yes, the online magazine/newspaper, released a recent report after things were kind of going sour, per se, saying that there's a lot of pressure and word on the street is David Tepper is not happy with how the offense looks. And it's no secret this is one of the worst offenses in football. Yes, there is a lack of talent, and yes, we have a rookie quarterback. However, no one expected the offense to be the weak link. When David Tepper hired Frank Reich as an offensive-minded coach, the first one in team history, we expected the offense to kind of be the one carrying the mail. And now it seems like the other two phases of the team with special teams and defense seems to be pretty solid, but the offense is just that anchor that is pulling this team down, and they are 1-8. And things are getting real uncomfortable. And although fans and the mainstream media have been very, very critical of rookie Bryce Young, according to Rossini's report, the feelings in the front office have not wavered on Bryce. The report says the opinion that Young is the future still the unified belief based on conversations with multiple team sources. That's excellent news for Panthers fans, and everyone remains in lockstep. So if the player appears right, what's wrong? I don't need a person in the know to tell me the following. The young quarterback needs help, needs protection, needs a run game, needs cleaner route running from his receivers. He needs play calling that instills confidence and creates momentum. However, I'm told David Tepper is frustrated by this offense and its lack of improvement. Some in the building believe the roster hasn't been built correctly, while others criticize the offense overall. This is an offense some league sources have described as boring, predictable, and lifeless. Lifeless! Wow! I mean, our offense really does not have a pulse at times with the lack of execution that we show, but this is not lying. I mean, this is true. I mean, David Tepper actually is correct in his thoughts and sentiments. And we heard earlier reports talking about they wanted to do more things that lean into Bryce Young's strengths, which is kind of the reason what probably led into Thomas Brown trying to give in a shot to do that. But it still hasn't changed. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. It kind of is what it is with the lack of talent and the broken philosophy. Things are just a cluster F of things going on offense, and it's just sad to see. I wouldn't be surprised if things trend in the same direction in the second half, like the article says, that there will be major changes. I think if things tick up a little bit better, they'll probably still shape things up with Scott Fitter, at least, as you heard in that report, that the team is just built wrong. But I feel like if they're going to be square pegging round hole this offense, which seems to be what's going on since it's called lifeless, Frank Reich could also be out of there too. And I think it would be wise for David Tepper to do that if that's the route he's going to go, because he's played the game of hiring a coach, keeping a GM, hiring a coach. You have to kind of get everybody on lockstep with the same philosophies and bring them in at the same time. Hire your GM first and get a head coach that knows what he's doing. But most of all, for David Tepper, he needs to step back and let the football people do football things. If it requires him to actually hire a president that works under him that handles football operations, do that. But you also have to allow that president to do his thing and not be hands-on, wanting to meet with players and coaches on a weekly basis. Let the football people handle football things. and we'll see what happens from there. You guys let me know down below in the comments how you feel about the article that I just talked about, and do you think that this means the writing is on the wall for the front office and the head coach Frank Wright? Let me know down below. Next up, after the fact, we always hear about shoulda, coulda, woulda about what happened around the trade deadline, and the Panthers were no different. Reports have come out they made some moves for some major players. They at least picked up the phone and made calls and offers and inquiries about guys like T. Higgins, Davante Adams, and even Montez Sweat, who was traded to the Chicago Bears for a second-round pick. Now, you may be saying that the timing of this release of this information may be fishy, but to be fair and completely transparent, this article came out before Thursday's game against the Bears that we lost, and things seem to be as dire as the situation that it is right now. They were actually trying to kick the tires on these players, and that's a big-time wide receiver, which they already made 100% clear, but also an edge in Montez Sweat. That's a big-time thing to show, and personally, I feel like I appreciate their head being in the right place, but with their job on the line and as dire things are right now with the lack of talent on this roster, you don't get a cookie or Kool-Aid points, in my opinion, from almost whatever. Almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. Now, does this prevent them from going after these same names in the offseason once things change? No, because I think a lot of teams have in their brain that they're still trying to compete. So why would the Bengals get rid of T. Higgins if they feel like they're in smack dab in the AFC North race and a Super Bowl run potentially? That makes sense. So he may be more available in the offseason when they have to figure out who they're going to pay. But right now, they feel like T. Higgins is worth more to them on their team than he is somewhere else. Now, Davante Adams, I don't really know what's going on, and nobody really knows what's going on in Vegas. Obviously, Antonio Pierce is coming as the interim coach. They fired they fired Josh McDaniels a little bit after the trade deadline. Not really sure why they wouldn't move Davante if they plan on restarting and rebuilding this team overall. Regardless, he could still be had in the offseason whenever they hire their new coach if he's not part of their long-term plan or he doesn't want to be a part of their long-term plan. He could be available as well. Now, Montez Sweat in the whole edge market. Now, I understand not wanting to do that with Montez Sweat. He did sign that contract with the Bears. It was around $25 million. That's going to let you know that you're going to have to sign an extension there. And why would you bring in an edge that wants a contract when you can't even sign Brian Burns? I understand that thought process from some fans. However, pairing another pass rusher with Brian Burns, I think would be the best thing possible. We saw things were at their best when we had Hassan Reddick and Brian Burns, two perennial double-digit sack guys that may not be as dominant or upper tier as the Bosas or the Garretts, but when you have two double-digit sack bookends, that can cause hell for any NFL offense. So bringing in another guy who's maybe a tier below or similar tier to Brian Burns makes sense. Now, why didn't they go after Chase Young when the price was only a third-round pick? I don't know. But regardless, things did not get done, but I think it's just hearing the shoulda, coulda, woulda just kind of pisses you off, but it also makes you happy that they weren't sitting on their hands. They just didn't want to get fleeced in a deal, and so I'm understanding what's going on. We'll leave it to the offseason to see what they try to do to address the wide receiver position and the edge position. But that lets me know that will be a top priority for them in terms of the offseason and the draft. So we will plan for that going forward. You guys let me know down below in the comments how you feel about them almost or taking a swing at Higgins, Adams, Sweat, guys like that. I want to get you guys' thoughts down below. Is that enough to make you feel a little bit better on Scott Fitter right now? Or are you completely done with the current GM and you want to see some new blood in here? Let me know down below. So since the Panthers played on a Thursday, that kind of left a mini bye week. And after the loss to the Bears, which has put many of us in the fan base at all-time lows, my good friends over there from Panthers Nation Podcast, Rashad, had organized a March on Mint. Now, it had been going as a joke for a few years about protesting, getting picket fences and torches and stuff and going on Mint and storming the Capitol per se, just to kind of make a point because David Tepper, since he's on the team, has had a losing record. And every year, he took over a team that was in the playoffs when he bought it, but he's been nowhere close since then, trying to do things his way instead of the logical thing and letting football guys handle football decisions. So this March on Mint was organized by Rashad to organize and talk to us amongst the fan base and just discuss where we are in the demand to have better. Not necessarily an indictment on the players, but an indictment on the owner to let him know that we aren't happy. We aren't in the basement. We are in the light, and we're here in your face on your front door. We demand change and we demand better because we are not some bottom tier organization that you have turned us into. We want to be better than that. As young as this team is, they've been to 2 Super Bowls. They've had a lot of downs. However, they have pretty much overachieved, in my opinion, to only be 20-something years old. Now, unfortunately, this incident kind of conflicted schedule-wise with the event at Bank of America Stadium with the Little League football thing. And once this thing kind of caught fire, Bleacher Report caught on, Pro Football Talk, it went on of a couple other local and national media pieces. Things started spiraling. Not even spiraling, but it started, I think, growing bigger than I think Rashad and them really even thought it could be. And who know the power of the internet, man, it can extend reach across the globe, across the nation. There was no RSVP, there were no tickets. Safety could be a concern when you have little kids out there at the field and you're talking about a protest. It's supposed to be peaceful and just more of a talking discussion, but when you don't have any kind of RSVP, the amount of people that's going to come, it only takes one bad actor to turn things left. And with Rashad's name all over the flyer, he's going to be held accountable, especially when you're talking about kids and there's other proper things you have to do. On the other end, I understand some fans are probably pissed off about it being canceled because, I mean, it's a protest. Some people are just like, we don't care about those kids. It's going to be peaceful. Our voices need to be heard. If not now, then when? Because things are at an all-time low, it feels like, for this franchise. And this is a franchise that has seen a 1-15 season in the past where we won the first game and lost 15 straight. So when I say that, that lets you know that things don't look promising and the future does not look bright at all. So I understand, because protests aren't supposed to be convenient. They're supposed to make people uncomfortable. They're supposed to send a message about certain things. So that's kind of the nature of what a protest is. But I also understand that the liability would soon fall on Rashad and him. And with the platform he has a family, he has kids, he has to support, he has a job, obviously, outside of creating content. There's bigger things at stake, so I understand what he was coming at and why they decided to cancel things. Now, I would love to organize something later. I mean, not me personally, because I am not a local Charlotte guy, but I feel like something needs to happen. The message might have been sent to Tepper, seeing this stuff materialize and hit national media waves, showing how unhappy this fan base is, but I still feel like more action should be needed down the line, because it doesn't look like things are going to get better and things that have to change. Now, what that is, David Tepper has to decide. It's his team. But at the same time, as fans, we cannot sit idly by and just continue to watch this circus of a show that he's turned this franchise into. You guys let me know down below in the comments if you plan on going to the March on Mint in Charlotte and kind of protesting and showing your displeasure with this franchise, mainly speaking to that owner. Last but not least, the team has announced that star cornerback J.C. Horn 21-day window has been opened up after going on IR. We know that J.C. Horn had a procedure done on his hamstring that he injured in week 1 versus the Atlanta Falcons. And we know the up and down career of J.C. Horn because of the injuries has really derailed a guy that never really showed this type of injury concerns and injury history, even back in college. And this guy is a great player when he's on the field. He just can't be relied upon to be on the field. However, with all this rest, being out since week 1, with it going on to week, 10, 11, J.C. Horn should be fresh and ready to go whenever they decide to do it. Now, does he come back this week versus the Cowboys or not? Who knows? That 21-day window means that he can come back anytime during that point. Now, we saw with Austin Corbett, they kind of waited to the bye week after they opened his 21-day practice window. I expect them to potentially do the same. Because for J.C. Horn to have a soft tissue injury, not being able to practice at all, and to try to jump in for 1 week of practicing into a game, you're asking a guy who's had soft tissue injury history to do something that's probably not best for him. So bringing him along slow will be expected. I expect at least 1 game before J.C. Horn is back on the field in action. I've been wrong before, but that's just my theory based off of J.C. Horn's injury history. Ian Thomas, who some guys may not have too much love for, but part of our tight end rotation, he's also had his 21-day practice window activated. He could potentially return himself. So look out for those two, getting some reinforcement finally. This team that was devastated by injuries early on and still dealing with it, getting some guys healthy finally. So we'll see what happens on this backside to hopefully make this season way more interesting. We're not going to the playoffs probably. We're not going to win too many games. But I would love to have these games and this 3.5, 4 hours that I spend on Sunday watching this team be a little bit more interesting with all our best players playing, at least to give us a fighter's chance. You guys let me know down below in the comments how you feel about J.C. Horn coming back. Do you think they should let him come back immediately this week, or bring him along slow, give him another week or 2 of practice to bring him on, just because he needs to build up that conditioning since he hasn't been practicing over the past 8-9 weeks? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. I am Aaron Duckett here with the Necessary Bluntness Sports Talk. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. I have a ton of content coming this week. The blog/podcast coming out tomorrow, talking about my trip to Chicago and Soldier Field, what I was doing to these Chicago fans in the stands before we decided to lose and the game went left. I got all that and more to talk about the city and my away trip. I really appreciate you guys' support as always. I'll see you next time. Peace.